All right, one of the things that we use the most is a light bulb when trying to understand circuits. Mostly because if it's lit up, we know the circuit's working. And if it's not lit up, we know the circuit's not working. Whereas a lot of other times, you're like, hey, is the circuit working? And you're like, I don't know. I think stuff's connected. All right, so that's why we use light bulbs a lot when we're trying to understand circuits. But to understand that, we actually have to understand what a light bulb does and how it works. So I've drawn a light bulb here. It's not my best light bulb. I've drawn way better in my life, but hey, it is what it is. And so we're just going to talk about the different parts of the light bulb. So right here, we have the base of the light bulb. All right, it should be shiny and metal. And then over here, we have the threads of the light bulb. Now again, these are also shiny and metal. And if you want to test it, feel free to look at your own light bulbs in your own house, take one out, examine it. You'll see that these are both metal, and we know that since they are metal, they are both conductors. So let's just put that in a different color to remind ourselves that they are conductors. All right, so both the thread and the base are both conductors, so they allow electrons to pass through them very easily. Now, if you look at a light bulb very carefully, you'll notice something very interesting. There is a red, I'm sorry, I chose red. There is a black little ring at the bottom of every single light bulb. And this right here is actually an insulator. So it does not allow the electrons to go through it. If you want to destroy a light bulb, you could smash it, or you could scratch off just part of this black little ring. And if you scratch off enough of the black little ring so there is a clear line between the base and the threads, then you will also have successfully destroyed a light bulb. Now the reason for this is because we want the filament, which is on the inside. So let's choose a different color here. Let's just go there. So we have on the inside, we have the filament. And the filament is basically where the electrons are going to go through. This is what's going to light up. This is what's going to heat up. This is what's going to give off that light. So the light bulb is, producing light instead of just pure heat, which is what most resistors do. So you need the electrons to actually go through this. So to go through this, you must make two connections. You have to make one at the base, which you'll see that there's a squiggly part that's the filament, but then you have this wire that comes down. This wire is actually connected to the base. So the electrons will go up here, they'll go through the filament, they'll go down here, and then they actually go out to the side. So a big thing when you want to make a light bulb work is that you must make connections at the base and the threads. Okay, if you do this, then the electrons will actually go through the light bulb. If you do not do this, then the electrons will go along the outside of the light bulb, because electrons always want to take the path of least resistance, just like humans. All right, we always want to do what's easy. And so it's a lot easier if you don't have to fight through the filament, because the filament is a resistor, so that means it's very hard for electrons to go through. It's much like going through the hallways of school during passing period versus going through the hallways of school during class time. It's like during passing period, there's tons of things to bump into and run into, so the resistance is very high. But during class period, let's say you gotta go to the bathroom, well, there's very few people in the hallway, so there's very low resistance, very few things to bump into, a lot of space to move. So it's very easy to go through the hallways. All right, so this forces the electrons to actually go through the filament and out the sides, so the light bulb will actually light up. All right, so key things about this is called a light bulb, is that you must make connections at the base and the threads, because you want the electrons to actually pass inside of the light bulb through the filament instead of out along the outside, because it would normally want to go to conductors, but since we have our insulator, these wires in here are also conductors. So I guess I should make another little color note here is that we also have conductors are in these wires on the inside as well. And so we force it to go along the inside instead of along the outside path. Okay, so those are kind of the big elements that you need to understand about a light bulb, because when we're doing all these experiments, we'll be using light bulbs to understand, is the circuit lit, is it not lit, and how bright is it? That's going to give us an indication of, how much energy is being used and things like that. So all the fun facts about a light bulb, and I hope that cleared up some questions. As always, have fun with science!